Welcome everyone, let's jump right into this explainer, because today we're exploring one of the absolute greatest achievements in human history. We're going to cover the whole shebang, from the very first farming settlements popping up along the Nile, all the way to the breathtaking modern discoveries unfolding right now, literally as we speak in 2026. This is the complete saga of ancient Egypt.
And honestly, we've got to kick things off with this classic quote from the ancient Greek historian Herodotus. He hit the nail on the head here. It perfectly captures the absolute truth of the matter. Without the predictable, mineral-rich flooding of the world's longest river, this entire civilization simply would not exist. The Nile was the engine of their whole world.
So, to digest over 3,000 years of history today, we're going to use this quick roadmap. First, the gift of the Nile, then pharaohs and cosmic balance, journey to the afterlife, engineering the pyramids, and we'll wrap up with discoveries in the modern era. All right, diving straight into section 1, the gift of the Nile, geography and origins. Let's look at the geography that dictated how these people viewed the entire universe. Now, you might not know this, but the Egyptians didn't actually call their home Egypt. They called it Kemet, which translates to the Black Land. They saw their very existence as this incredibly delicate balance. On one side, you had this life-giving, predictable Black Land, where they farmed massive amounts of surplus grain. On the other side, the deadly, chaotic red land of the surrounding desert. And that surplus grain from Kemet was literally their secret weapon. It freed up a huge chunk of the population to become the priests, the scribes, and the builders that we remember today.
That agricultural surplus allowed their civilization to endure for millennia. But it wasn't just one smooth, unbroken story. It was more like a roller coaster. Egyptian history was really a cycle of 3 glorious centralized golden ages separated by these chaotic intermediate periods. They built the massive pyramids in the Old Kingdom, they expanded their borders in the Middle Kingdom, and they peaked during the mighty New Kingdom, which is when Egypt became a true global imperial superpower.
Moving right along to section 2, pharaohs and cosmic balance, the living gods. Now that we have our timeline anchored, we can explore the totally unique political system that kept this massive machine running. So a pharaoh wasn't just a king or a politician like we're used to today. To the Egyptians, they were a literal, living god on earth. And their supreme, absolutely non-negotiable duty was to maintain this concept right here, Ma'at. They believed the universe existed in a super fragile balance. If the pharaoh governed justly and performed the correct rituals, Ma'at was preserved. But if they failed, the entire universe would plunge back into chaos. So yeah, the weight of the literal cosmos was on their shoulders. Talk about pressure. And this rigid social pyramid is exactly what mobilized the nation under that pharaoh. Check out the base, the peasant farmers. They made up the vast majority of the population. Now, remember that agricultural surplus we talked about? Well, during the flooded months when their fields were underwater and they couldn't farm, they didn't just take a vacation. They performed something called corvée labor for the state. It was basically a tax paid in sweat, a civic duty to build the epic monuments and temples that honored the gods and maintained that cosmic order. Which brings us to section 3, journey to the afterlife, obsessed with life. This gets into their incredibly complex beliefs about death, which were actually driven by a profound obsession with preserving their joyful, everyday lives for eternity. This obsession with living forever fueled their visceral mummification process. They believed your soul actually needed a physical form to return to, so they systematically preserved it. And this gets pretty wild. They would literally pull a person's brain out through their nose with a metal hook and just toss it in the trash because they thought the brain was completely useless. But the heart? They strictly guarded the heart, leaving it right there in the chest, because to them, that was the true seat of human intelligence, emotion, and the soul. After that, they'd dry the body out with natron salt for about 40 days, and then painstakingly wrap it in hundreds of yards of linen. But here's the catch. Just preserving your physical body wasn't enough to get you into eternal paradise, which they called the field of reeds. First, your soul had to pass the ultimate moral test down in the underworld. Overseen by Anubis, the jackal-headed god, your physical heart was quite literally placed on a scale. They would weigh it against a single feather, representing Ma'at, that core principle of truth and order we talked about earlier. If your heart was lighter than the feather, you passed. You're in. But if your heart was heavy with sin, well, you weren't sent to hell. Instead, you came face to face with this terrifying composite monster right here, Ammit. Just look at her. The head of a crocodile, the body of a lion, and the hindquarters of a hippo. Basically, the 3 deadliest animals in Egypt rolled into one nightmare. Amit would devour your heavy heart instantly, which resulted in the complete and utter annihilation of your soul, permanent non-existence. Honestly, a fate the Egyptians feared above absolutely anything else. Okay, let's get into section 4. Engineering the pyramids, architectural marvels. Because they fully believed they needed these enduring physical bodies and unshakable tombs to survive that dangerous journey into the afterlife, they engineered some of the most iconic structures in human history. That astronomical number on your screen, that is the estimated amount of individual limestone and granite blocks used just to construct Khufu's Great Pyramid at Giza. 2.3 million blocks, and some of these weigh many tons each. This thing stood as the tallest human-made structure on Earth for almost 4,000 years. Plus, the precision is just baffling. The 13-acre base is perfectly leveled to a microscopic accuracy margin of less than 2 centimeters. The sheer empirical genius it took to pull this off is staggering. I mean, how did they do it without iron tools, without wheels, and without pulleys? Simple. Applied physics. To move those mountains of stone on wooden sleds, they simply poured water on the sand right in front of them as they pulled. It sounds super counterintuitive, but wetting the sand to the exact right consistency creates a firmer surface and literally cuts the pulling friction in half. Then they hauled these massive blocks of giant spiraling mud brick ramps. It is just pure, brilliant problem solving. And hey, we really need to completely bust a massive Hollywood myth right here. Forget the movies with whip-driven slaves building these monuments. Modern archaeology, especially the discovery of the workers' cemeteries right near the pyramids, proves these builders were actually highly skilled, deeply respected, and very well-fed Egyptian citizens. They were proudly fulfilling their civic duty to the state and the gods through that corvée labor tax system we saw earlier. They were respected builders for sure, not enslaved captives. Let's wrap things up with Section 5, Discoveries in the Modern Era, Egyptology Today. Because all that ancient ingenuity, and even the ability to read their records, was entirely lost to the sands of time for centuries, until a stunning modern rediscovery birthed the entire science of Egyptology. Think about this. For 1,400 years, nobody on Earth could read the magnificent hieroglyphs covering those temple walls. The language was completely dead. But then, during Napoleon's campaign in 1799, they stumbled upon the Rosetta Stone. Because it featured the exact same royal decree written in both unreadable Egyptian hieroglyphs and readable ancient Greek, a brilliant scholar named Champollion was able to use the Greek as a key to finally crack the code in 1822. This single piece of broken stone unlocked 3 millennia of silent history. Thanks to deciphering those texts, our understanding of history just exploded with specifics. Take the number 66. That is how many years Ramesses the Great ruled over Egypt. Because we can read the walls now, we know he fathered over 100 children, he built colossal temples all over the place, and he signed the first documented peace treaty in all of recorded human history after the Battle of Kadesh. We wouldn't know any of these incredible human details if it weren't for the Rosetta Stone. And here's the most exciting part. Ancient Egypt is absolutely not a dead subject confined to dusty library books. It is revolutionizing right now, in real time. Late in 2025, the billion-dollar Grand Egyptian Museum finally opened its doors, displaying the entirety of King Tut's treasures and Khufu's massive ancient solar boat. Even crazier, scientists are currently using muon tomography, which is this non-invasive particle physics technology, to map hidden structures inside the pyramids without moving a single stone. Which leads us to this tantalizing question that is currently making headlines everywhere. Scans have recently revealed a massive, previously completely unknown 30-meter hidden corridor deep inside Khufu's Great Pyramid, and it ends in a sealed doorway. As renowned Egyptologist Dr. Zahi Hawass prepares to formally unveil the scientific findings of this mysterious void in 2026, we have to ask ourselves, after over 4,500 years, what breathtaking secrets does the world's most famous ancient civilization still have left to share with us?